welcome to the Shakedown. Uh, I'm your host, Ryan Forbes, aka Rainforest, and with me is once again my special guest host, David Brown. Welcome, Dave.
Hey everybody, David Brown here. Yes, glad to be on the Shakedown. It's been kind of fun. It's interesting, and I like this. Plan on doing it more.
We want you on here more, and then hopefully, once again, this is part of our my week off, which is happening back in November at this point, and hopefully this episode will be airing in December, January. So you're gonna hear a whole bunch of mass produced episodes, and so I probably won't be getting feedback on how you do, Dave, until a little bit later. But
Well,
yeah.
maybe by the time this airs and you start getting feedback on it, I'll start having some time off.
And then we'll be able to do
Maybe.
more episodes, and that'll be great. And then everyone
Right,
will tell us how awful that they think or whatever.
I'm good with that. I mean, I'll take that as long as I get time off. I mean, as it stands, I get 1 day off a week, so it's that would be awesome to get more than 1 day off a week.
Right. Yeah. We all need more than 1 day off a week, and by that
Well,
point,
you're telling
me, yes. No.
So my boss tells me, he goes, I was, complaining about work, and he's like, "Bitch, you had 4 years off," and I was just like, "I will kill you." I was like, "I hate you." I was like, "Man, I hate you." And he starts laughing. He goes, "What?" And I was like, "You're right." I was like, "Shut up."
No, I would. Oh man.
Funny, man. It was funny though. I couldn't do anything but laugh.
That reminds me of the dentist who, when I first came into prison, and I go, what about can we get floss? And he goes, no, you can't have floss in prison. I'm like, but what about my retainer? It's there's no other way to clean it other than floss. He's like, well, maybe you'll think about doing what you did again twice. And I'm like,
Thanks, asshole.
yeah. Yeah, that's the reason I'm going to think about it again, is because of floss and because what you said. And yeah, that's the reason I'm going to think about, killing someone again. Thanks, bud. But yeah, I had to keep my mouth shut on that one too. So
What does that say about me that some of my two of my closest friends in this world are convicted killers?
because we've been through the shit though. To me, those are the people I gravitate towards the most, are people who've been through shit. And
yeah, I agree with you. I do as well. But it's just kind of funny because I'm I don't have any problems falling asleep in the same room with somebody that's been convicted of murder. But some people would be really scared of that shit.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. And some people, it's weird. It's kind of interesting that the things that people get freaked out about, and really, yeah, that people really judge you for. And you really have to to me, it's you have to get to know a person before you can actually judge them. There are a lot of people who've done a lot less. We talk about Ben David all the time. I get he makes me a lot more nervous than than a lot of people who are responsible for people's deaths. Because
yeah, and I would not trust Ben David in my house I would not even trust him in a room in my house by himself.
Right. Because you can't. There's no reason to.
No, you cannot. It's funny though, but it's my son. So we were at the thrift store by Malone's old apartment, and we went over there, hang out with Malone for a little bit, and so we're playing video games, whatnot. And then, so my son later on asked, hey, what was Malone in prison for? And I was like, oh, he's in prison for murder. And I saw this change in him, he was like, oh well, shit, he kind of freaked him out. And I was like, whoa, simmer down. I was like, let's talk about this right now. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we talked about it, and I was explained to him. I told my son, this happened 30 years ago. You can't judge somebody by something they did 30 years ago if they're not that same person, And so he's cool with him now, but it was just weird how he automatically wanted to turn all judgy,
And a lot of people do, and like it's hard for me to even talk about. People immediately want to know what Malone did, and they get as soon as they hear murder, they're just like they immediately like, you shouldn't hang out with him. You shouldn't. What are you doing? They get
Oh yeah,
all defensive for sure.
yeah. They immediately shut down.
You're right,
You know, it's like they stop listening to anything you're saying. The only thing they hear is, "Oh, murder." You know,
right,
and it's like, whoa, 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 hold up. You know, it's like let's talk about all the stuff you've done that nobody's seen you do. You know, it's like, like 'cause I had an old boss uh, when I was bartending at Kona Grill who she told me she had this quote. It says, "Do the right thing even when nobody's watching." Right,
right,
and that always stuck with me. And it's like, and then I saw one recently. It said, "It's not what you do when everybody. It's what you do when nobody's watching that counts." You know, and I was like, "That's it's got a lot of merit. It's got a lot of value." And I was like, because it's true. It's like when nobody's. It's if you're doing the right thing because you're just doing the right thing to do the right thing. That's what matters. You know what I mean?
right. And it's, but it's also like it says, when you're doing the right thing when no one else is watching, that's a lot about having integrity too, and doing it. You're doing it for yourself, and that's what is the big thing. That's the difference between who you are as a person, or being a con artist and a hustler, basically trying to get to win people over in a different way. Because
Facts.
yeah,
I agree with you 100%.
so
And it's I had a bar customer from Good Company the other day tell me we're talking about stuff or whatever and choices and whatnot. And so how I implore my kids to always make good decisions and good choices because the choices you make today, the consequences could affect you for the rest of your life. And she's like, and she was telling me about she had her motto is to live the question, and I was just like, damn. I was like, okay, it's so simple but yet so profound too because like she explained it, she goes, you may know the outcome for something and what the destination is or whatever, but it's living the question and getting to that point that really matters. And I was like, that's kind of cool. I really like that.
yeah,
So live the question, Ryan. Live the question.
I will try. But so
Right?
speaking of living questions, I guess the question for today that we're talking about is actually racism in prison, and how prison kind of makes you a racist. Um, and we talked about it a little bit last time about how there's like a lot of in prison, life in prison kind of gets broken down by race, and people separate into their different groups. Let's start there. What do you say about that? Is that true? Do they get broken down into groups, and kind of how do the people click up by race?
It's automatic. Yeah, people definitely do that. I mean, you go to prison, so it's ironic for me because I'm half Korean, half white, but I more identify as a Korean than I do white. But it's like, I go to, you get a unit, and you get to the unit, and all of a sudden all the white dudes are like hitting you up, like, hey, what's up, homie? Like you want to be a wood, or, you down, and all this other, stuff. And it's like, but if I, went into that same prison dorm or whatever and was like all of a sudden went and hung out with black dudes, all the white dudes would be like, oh, he thinks he's a wigger, or, you know what I mean, or whatever. It's like, but it's weird. It's interesting how in prison everybody kind of gravitates towards each other, like, like minded, you know what I mean? Like, well, like minded, like colored, I guess you could really say. And like, all the Hispanics hang out with Hispanics, the whites hang out with whites, blacks hang out with blacks, and you can even further break that down to like the Christians hang out with the Christians, and like the Jewish community pretty much associates with the Jewish community, like the Muslims, Crips, everybody else. You know what I mean?
It's true. I will say the Jewish community, like, there's not many units with the Jewish community, and even in that, like, it's a on most units I was on, I was the only Jewish person on the unit. Stringfellow was the odd one out that it actually had a Jewish community, which was why they sent me over there. But yeah, you're right. In general, yeah, Muslims hang out with Muslims, Christians hang out with Christians, and then it breaks down with the different from there, like in different color groups too. and it's usually going to be breaking down into gangs. Like, are you like if you're white, you're part of your AB is like kind of like you're part of
Oh yeah,
your Aryan Brotherhood, and that's how it is. So,
yeah,
and you're supporting them.
true. And if you have money, then they're definitely going to want you in their little group,
Yeah,
which is kind of funny too. It's, I mean, it's funny how you see somebody, make commissary, and all of a sudden they have a bunch of friends, or the same dudes that were just bitching about you to me, all of a sudden are like now they're trying to be your best friend because you've got commissary, you have something they need.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they can they can hate you all week long and then be your best friend on store day. And
Oh yeah, they're going to be your best. And then when you run out of store, there's like, oh, peace out.
right. Yeah,
Once they use you up, it's like, oh, it's a wrap. It's been nice knowing you.
absolutely. So, um, so then the question is like, so even though everyone clicks up and goes into their different groups, how does that turn into racism? And I have some stories for me, but like for you, what um did that affect your view on looking at other races, basically?
Um, not so okay. So the first time I went to prison, I'll say yes, because the first time I went to prison, I was, I grew up in pretty much, in like white suburban America. Like my high school had very few black people in it. It had very few Hispanic people. It was just mostly white, for lack of better words, a few Asians, whatever, a few like, but and then so I grew up in a very, you know, not really a racist environment, but it's like my parents were very, like my dad's very white. Uh, you know, he called black people the N word, didn't like them, and and just a bigot, right? So I go to prison, and I get to prison, and I get to a unit, and it's like, like these, all these black dudes are like they're bullying, they're bullies, and they're extorting people, and it's like if they can find some white dude that they can beat up and control and take their money and extort them, that they're going to do it. And so I automatically link up with the white dudes and the Asians. And back then it was like when you got to the unit, you fought everybody, you know what I mean? And it's like, dude, I could never got my ass beat so bad as bad as I did by these two black dudes. I mean, they whooped my ass. But I mean, I didn't like stop or bow down or anything else like that. But it's like, you know, they pretty much personified to me what, the whole black community was, like didn't matter who you were. It's like, okay, so now all black people are like this was my mindset, right? So in a sense, it made my worldview of, the African American community even worse, because all of a sudden now I'm thinking, every black person is just as bad as all these black people in prison, when it really wasn't like that. You know what I mean?
No,
Uh,
yeah, I totally get that.
and it's now though, like, like this, I did this violation, and it's like things a little different. And it's like I actually stopped. I don't have the racist sunglasses on, for lack of better words, and I'm actually talking to people and spending a little time trying to get to know people and like see things from their point of view, or this, that, and the other. And it just, and then I really start seeing how like these little social groups inside the prison, like all these, the white power guys, the gangster guys, and this, that, and the other, how they're all like try and vilify everybody but them. You know what I mean? Yet they're all like stabbing each other in the back, and it was just kind of like, man, you people are acting like a bunch of little girls, and
Ye-
it's they're
yeah,
like messy drama queens, and it's crazy.
that yeah, there's a lot of that of yeah, the high school drama, but like with adult results. Um,
Yeah.
that I will say, like, so for me, one of the first things that I noticed, like when I was like at Gurney, which is the transfer facility, which is like the first place they send you when you go into Texas prisons as a transfer facility. But I um you notice right away that you hang out with your own color and that's it. That's kind of the end of the story. And the only time I was ever approached by someone of a different color was one of two occasions. One was when I started making commissary, and all of a sudden they wanted something like now they're asking me, for coffee or whatever. And then two, um, was an incident where they were trying to get me wired up, like to go. They wanted like they saw like I was getting frustrated with something. And like, oh, go talk to that officer. Go talk to that officer. Yeah, that's the person you need to talk to. Go talk to him. And I didn't, and it was good I didn't because that officer, if I went and talked to that one in particular officer, that's the one that was gonna yeah he was gonna like handcuff me or whatever. He was gonna that was not the right one to talk to ever in any occasion, especially not when I was messed up or to file any complaints to. And and so I learned like that was one lesson. That was though there was those interactions, and then on top of it, there was the TVs in the day rooms. And even though I knew like this was like I was trying not to generalize, but like one of the biggest things is like there were certain groups watching certain shows at certain times were much louder and much and like than what I figured than I compared to other groups at other times. And
Oh, Young and the Restless.
yes. Yeah, Young and the Reckless.
Jerry Springer.
Yeah, Young and the Restless was a lot. Honestly, Young and the Restless. Well, let's see. I'm trying to think of it. Yeah, I guess Young and the Restless was a lot quieter than Wendy Williams. I'll put it that way. Or
Oh my God. Oh,
well,
that show was horrible.
it
Wendy
is,
Williams. Oh my God.
and that show had to be on. Like, I mean, some depending on the dorm you were in, that show had to be on. If you guys don't know about Wendy Williams, yeah, it's a good thing you don't know about Wendy Williams. You don't need to know about Wendy Williams.
Ironically, about that show, all these dudes that want to watch this Wendy Williams would all swear to God that she was a man, that she used to be a man or whatever. And they all have this, they're purportedly super straight, yet they want to watch a person who they think is a man dressed as a woman.
Yeah,
There's got to be some irony in there somewhere if you can't figure that one out, but it's just weird. It's kind of funny.
I yeah, I don't know, but
It's, because they're
yeah,
so, everybody's so concerned with their sexuality and what everybody perceives them to be in there. It just cracks me up.
it's true. And that's the thing. Everyone's watching everyone all the time. That's something you can't forget. Is
Yeah.
everyone's watching everything. So how you react to everything is being watched, even when you don't think so. Even like that's the thing. Your quietest moment at home, like when you're in prison, there is no such thing as that quiet moment. And when you have that quiet moment, it's being watched by someone else, and usually it's by the last person in the world you want watching because why are they watching you? Um,
And don't be somebody like yourself or myself where we're educated, for lack of better words, and stand out, because
oh yeah,
you do, then you're especially on stage, and everything's a stage because everybody's watching you all the time.
right, right. And when you're on stage, what they're waiting for is for you to trip up or to trip you up
True,
and to get that spotlight for themselves.
of course, because they want to be the one that caused it to happen or whatever. I just remember I used to always see you, Ryan, over there with your neon orange yarmulke, praying in the mornings, and I would just be like, "What the fuck is he doing with that disco yarmulke on?" That was
Yes.
my stage right there. That was my stage for you.
Yeah. And I knew, and that was, yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of, I would, like I said, and I like, and I knew when I did that, even though it was like 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever, it was super early. No one else was usually up at that time. But I was like, people are going to be watching. I can't, there's nothing else I can do. That's how it goes.
Yeah, it was always that used to blow me away. I was like, "What the hell is he doing up at this ungodly hour praying. And I was just like, but then when I started meditating, I used to understand, because if I tried to meditate when anybody else was awake, it was inevitable. Somebody's going to come and ask me something. Somebody's going to come and knock on the wall to my cubicle. And it was just like, okay, I get it now.
Yep. That is exactly what happens. And like on Shabbat, when I would try and do, like, I'd try and do prayers during that time. I mean, it was, yeah, it was a short prayer service, but like, that's still hard. It was hard to do those on like Friday nights. The only advantage is that that was movie night. So everyone was like rushing out the dorm to go watch whatever the newest movie was on the TV.
Yeah.
Even if there wasn't a new movie on.
That's crazy too. The movies, everybody, wanted to watch a movie.
Everyone except for whatever Sports Center was on, because that had to be on pretty much all the time.
That one blows me away too. I mean, we could do a whole episode on how they're obsessively will watch sports in prison.
That was something I talked about on the other ones. Like we talking about sports in prison.
They'll watch cornhole, for Christ's sake.
I remember that during the pandemic, all the sports were shut down, yet we still had Sports Center on, and there was like cornhole and like random, like, because they didn't have basketball or football or anything. But that if you touch that sports TV, you were going to fight. There were going to be words.
Oh yeah, so without a doubt, they were going to get, and they got fucked up about it real quick too. And it's like, are you serious right now? Or there could be a completely nobody in the day room, and you go get the remote, change the channel, and there'd been nobody in the day room for 30 minutes, and as soon as you change that channel off the sports, somebody's coming in there like, hey man, I was watching that, and you're like, man, there was nobody here for 30 minutes. Are you serious right now?
Right. And it's seriously like someone like taps them, it's like someone leaves from one of the other TVs, goes up to another dorm, says, hey, yeah, Dave just changed the sports TV, just letting you know, and then walks off, and then starts a whole chain reaction. It's
just crazy.
Right.
How, I mean, and it's just so stupid.
It's entirely stupid. And
I think a lot of it though, is just, it's power and control. You know what I mean? It's like, if it gives them something that they can control, and it's like they have the power of it over it. You know what I mean? It's like, so it makes them, I guess it makes them feel a little bit more secure.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one thing about addiction in general, is addiction is all about trying to control things you have no control over. So a lot of people, I'm sure, are dealing with that. They're trying to find things they can control, and the TV is something, I guess.
Right. I mean, it's, I guess in a sense, it's like, if I can control this, the TV, then I can control my life somewhat. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is kind of stupid, but it's, I mean, it's the way the brain works.
Right. Well, once again, we have killed another battery in the camera. So, and it's time to wrap up anyway. But thanks again, Dave. Thanks again, Dave, for being on the show, and we'll have you again soon. And once again, everyone, please, we invite your comments and everything on the show. And yeah, leave your comments, questions, concerns, ideas, and we'll be back soon with another one. Thank you so much.
We're again back soon.
The Shakedown was produced at Longmont Public Media, and our theme song, Shakedown, was brought to you by Envato Elements. If you want any Shakedown merchandise, or you want to support the show, you can go to waywordpress.com. That's WAYWORD press.com.